This month's Where Did the Road Go is brought to you by three wonderful people, Allison Cook, Super Inframan, and 36 Dingo. It is also made possible by all of my Patreons, and if you want to become a patron, www.wheredidtheroadgo.com.
Transmission start. Welcome to Where Did the Road Go? Join us as we wander off the path and explore lost history, consciousness, the paranormal, unexplained mysteries, alternative thought, and much more. We are present on the web at wheredidtheroadgo.com. Now here is your host, Soraya.
Welcome to this edition of Where Did the Road Go? And tonight I have as my guest Mr. Jim Pyre. Hey, Jim.
Hey!
And I've been wanting to talk to you for a while. We've talked back and forth over the years about you coming on and talking about your experiences. And then I just kind of lost contact with you, like you weren't getting my emails. And finally I messaged you on like Instagram and you're like, yeah, I still want to come on.
Oh yeah, I'd love to, dude. If I could be the gray man for everybody, that's fine, man. That's I'm a Generation Xer at heart. I fade to the background. It's fine with me. It's fine with me. I appreciate you reaching out. So it's really an honor. So yeah, no, thanks for having me.
So you like me have had a lifetime of experiences.
A lot of weird stuff, man, and I like you said. I guess the basics place to start is at the beginning.
Yes.
So and like we were talking before, if I try to crush it all together, people will walk away going, "This guy's a lunatic," and
right.
It's not like that. It's like almost like what talked about at the Skinwalker Ranch or something. Yeah, you had these weird things, but most of the time, it's just boring.
Yes.
I mean, my life is basically pretty banal. It's nothing special. Let's see, real quick. I grew up, I was born in Chicago. I grew up on the South Side, real blue-collar family. I say that because it sort of instilled in me something, because I was like a book kid. And it's funny because I'm dyslexic, but I think that made me more of a book kid because it was like, they had something I wanted. It's like this was being kept away from me, not on purpose. It was just my own brain messing with me.
Right.
But it's like, I want to know more about this. And being dyslexic, I am not mechanically inclined, my friend. I do not know my right from my left. So growing up with a blue collar, they didn't know what the hell to do with me.
Right.
They're like, he wants what? He wants books for Christmas? What? What's he want? Okay, let's indulge the boy. Let's indulge him. Here you go. I guess my biggest one, the earliest thing I had was probably it had to be, I think it was 70. Okay, so I was born in 71. So we moved sort of to Midway Airport, which is the smaller airport on the south side of Chicago. In fact, we moved to where, the planes were always overhead because we're on the flight path. I think they changed it since then, but this was the 70s. So it was probably 74. I hadn't been in school yet, and I was a really little kid. But I remember this. I was in my gangway because the houses in the city were like, it was post-World War II construction. So same house over and over and over again, 5-foot space. Yeah. So that was our gangway. And so I was in the gangway. I had my little tricycle. And I remember I look up and there is a passenger airplane above my house. And I'm not talking about like way up in the sky where they should be. It's like 10 feet above my roof. And I'm a little kid. I am a child, and I lost it. It was terrifying to me because I've seen planes before. I just haven't seen them that close. I remember it being like the underbelly. It was dark, and it was sort of like I could see like the roof on the underbelly. It was so close. So I'm terrified. I run into the backyard, run up the stairs into the kitchen, and I'm yelling at my mom. And obviously, she's like, "What are you talking about? No, there's no plane. I mean, the house would shake if it was that close.
Right.
I mean, this would be. I mean, no, you didn't see anything. The only thing I can tell you is, man, I saw it. I saw it.
Was it moving or sitting still?
Oh, it flew right over the house.
Oh, okay.
It flew right over the house, and I did not think about this until later, but." There was the United crash of 72, and my house is on the flight path to Midway Airport. So that I don't know if that was it, but it's a plane from the 70s that I saw. And I know, like, if you're younger, you'd think like a big Boeing. No, this was like a passenger plane. It wasn't that big, but it was like the commercial plane, an airline of that time. And yeah, that was one of the big crashes. And when it happened in 72, I would have been 1.
Right.
So I mean, I didn't get any news of it. I wasn't reading or anything at the time. So I mean, nothing could have been put in my brain about it. It was just like one of those bizarre things, you know. I'm like, I cannot explain that, but it's like having one of those memories that will always be in my head.
Yeah.
You know, it's just really weird.
Kind of like a ghost plane.
Yeah. Or something where it's just sort of like, can things like, what do they call those? I don't really buy into it, but like a residual, but only to me. I mean, well, or there was some sort of time distortion or I don't know.
You're picking up information in the environment because you're too young to filter it out.
Yeah. I mean, that's really that's really the only thing I can sort of latch onto, because like I said, it wasn't until decades later that I even go looking and I thought, oh, there was a plane crash. Wow. Okay.
Right.
Another thing, and this happened way later, and this is probably like people go, oh my God, this is it. This is when stuff started happening. But that's why I talk about the airplane, because in 78, Soraya, I died.
Oh, okay.
And they have a vaccine for it now, but dude, I died of the chicken pox.
Wow.
I was in grade school and had a really bad case, and I don't know how standard it is, but you know, the deal is you put all the kids together in the family, they all get sick, and you're done with it. Well, unfortunately, my siblings, as little as they were, got better a lot quicker than I did, and it ended up like going down my throat. It was bad.
Oh.
It was bad. And what I remember from that is, and I think something, and it's just something it stays with me, and it's like don't really. And this is my own thing. It's like, don't really fall into any sort of real rigid belief system. And watch, I'll show you how it sort of plays out in my life over and over again. Don't fall into this, because what happened was I got so sick that my family said, okay, well, he's not doing better. His brothers and sisters are recovering. We're going to send him to Grandma and Grandpa's house, you know, my mom's parents, to just get better. Because obviously I wasn't going to school. I was not well.
Right.
Well, my grandparents were like first generation Americans. So in their wisdom, they thought, yeah, and this is sort of common folk remedy. You know, we're going to sweat the disease out of them.
Right.
Well, I mean, so what I remember was I was laying in bed. I got a bunch of covers on me. My grandparents are yelling. My parents are yelling. All hell's breaking loose, and I'm just a little kid. And I feel, because I'm in a bedroom, like a guest bedroom, and they had sort of like a two. It's like a two flat, one on top of another. So there's like it would be an apartment below, an apartment on top, but my grandparents owned the whole thing, and they lived on top, but it was very small still. So they're in the kitchen. I'm in sort of the guest bedroom, and they're yelling. And I thought, oh, well, if they're yelling, why? I feel somebody sitting on my bed. And I'm like, oh, it must be mom or dad or grandma or grandpa. They must be sitting on the bed. And I look because I felt it, dude. I felt it. And this is stuff, again, like the airplane that sort of locks into your head. And I look and there's nobody there. There's nobody there. And then I hear that they're still fighting. And honest to God, the next thing I remember is I'm in a bathtub with ice and I'm freezing to death. And my mom's hanging over my head, and there's this nurse, and she's rubbing circles in my little hand. And I still do that. You can tell what stuff does to your brain or to your psyche, because when I am nervous, I still rub circles in my left hand.
Huh.
And it is probably from that day, you know. But yeah, and my parents were sort of like, to this day, they're sort of nonplussed by it. Because it was sort of like, hey, did I really die? And my dad will go, yeah, but not by much. I'm like, what does that mean, Dad? What does that mean? It's kind of binary.
You only kind of died.
Yeah. He really says stuff like that. It's like, yeah, it's, for a little while, just kind of, it was fine.
Well, according to Seth, there's no point of death.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Maybe you did just kind of die.
Yeah, I have no, I'm not going to, lie and say, no recollection of anything, going to the hospital, anything, just not there, like a machine.
Right.
Off, on. That was it. I didn't see whatever, didn't experience anything. But bear in mind, I was like, 8 or, I don't know. I was a little kid. That seems to be like I said, the thing that people latch onto. But even before, like I said, I saw the plane, so I don't know. So, I mean, sort of bear that in mind. The next weird thing is something that really, by happenstance, I listened to your podcast and you started talking about the Kundalini. I didn't even know what that word meant, but you were talking about experiencing the fog and the terrible pain. When I was a teenager, it happened. And I was enthralled by that podcast because I was like, oh my God, I'm not the only person who's had this. Somebody else has had this. Now, I didn't play an instrument or anything, and I was not yet in high school. So I was probably I went to Catholic school, so I don't know what middle or whatever. I was like in 7th grade or 6th grade. But I had it, and all of a sudden, for lack of a better word, like my tailbone, my crotch. Yeah. What is that? Like your base chakra?
The base chakra is just inside your tailbone.
Dude, that's it. And I curled up like a ball, man, and I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
I really did. And it happened a few times. And my mom and dad finally took me to the doctor, and the doc said, it's just growing muscle spasms. He'll be fine. Yeah, I was seeing like smoke come from my basement. It would go up the stairs into the attic, and I would tell my mom. I would tell people, and there was nothing there. And they'd be like, "Look, don't talk about that. That's nothing there. You didn't see anything." Like, okay, I guess I didn't, but clearly I did.
Right.
It went from the basement, and it was not like magic smoke. It rolled, but the opposite way, right? It rolled up the stairs into the attic, and I got no idea why that is related. Do you know what the smoke has anything to do with? Nope. Is there some symbolism to that?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's just, it's just like the rattling noises and stuff like that. It's just one of the things people experience when Kundalini wakes up.
I'm glad that I'm not alone, because I saw it, and it really, at the time, it scared me. If anything, really is what scared me. Mostly because the reaction of my parents is like, don't tell people that. Never tell people any of that. Like, okay. All right. I'll be quiet. It still, I don't do any sort of meditation or anything other than really washing the dishes or typing or whatever.
Right.
So I don't know but dude, sometimes it still bothers me. I'm not going to lie. not to the point where I'll curl up into a ball, but I can still feel it sometimes. And it's like, oh, that's that pain that is there. And as an adult, of course, I go to doctors, and these guys, urologists and stuff, and they, for the most part, pat me on the head and say, yeah, some people experience those kind of things. Sucks to be you. Well, all righty then. Sure. Literally, the last guy I went to, and this was like decades ago, he effectively said that. He's like, Jim, some people can't even have an orgasm. Like that. That's thanks, Doc.
Yeah, not what you're talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Where
do I give you my credit card? I'm leaving.
I will occasionally ask my doctor, like when weird things happen to me, I'll be like, maybe it's not weird. Maybe I just haven't heard of it. And I'll ask the doctor, and the doctor will be like, I've never heard of that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're like, at a certain point, well, at least me, I feel like, do I go on and tell this person this stuff? I better not.
Right.
I better not. Because the deal, I said I was. I told you, but I'm an attorney. I used to be a trial attorney, and the deal is, I know that sort of world, just like medicine. If people even have any hint, it's like, oh, wait a minute, he might not be quote unquote right.
Yeah,
you've lost any sort of credibility. It's like that joke, that trope where the bum is sitting in the back alley, and a monster comes out, and he's a real monster. And the guy looks at his gin bottle and goes, maybe it's in my head. No.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still be drunk and see a real monster. You can still have things like this happen and still be really sane. Everything's fine, and cognizant. But no, you don't take the chance. So I've generally kept my mouth shut. I really have. There's only one or two, and I'll talk about it later because it's funny. There's only one or two really good friends who know what I do, that I've told them I've had these experiences. And in the weirdest way, they said, if it would happen to anybody, it would probably happen to you. Okay. All right. I'll take that. Sure, man.
My doctor, because I'm diabetic, was saying, well, we should put this, I forget what it's called, but it's basically a meter that goes on your arm, so you always know what your blood sugar's doing.
Oh, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
And I said, it's not going to last. And I said, I blow out electronics. I'm like, it's probably not going to last a week. It literally lasted 24 hours and then shorted out.
I don't have it like that, but... Dude, I don't know, man. We may be related somehow. I've never had it like that, but I have in real high stress situations. I've destroyed like my phone batteries.
Oh yeah.
I've even effed up my car battery once when I thought someone had passed. Is that normal? Is that not? I don't talk about stuff like that because I'm like, they're gonna think I'm insane. But it's happened. My wife's seen it happen.
Yes, and I've met so many people who have that same thing. Some stronger than others. Some it's just mild. I worked at Best Buy at one point, and this girl comes in, and I mean, just a really normal, nothing like weird about this girl. And she goes, "Is it possible that I'm screwing up computers just by touching them?" And I said, yeah, why? And she's like, my boyfriend keeps saying that it's always my fault because they work fine until I touch them, and then they go crazy. I'm like, yep.
And that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Because of this surety, this materialism, this thing that's like, no, that's impossible. Well, how do you know that's impossible?
Right.
At a certain point, and I don't want to, I'll say the R word, I'm not, but don't turn, people turn that stuff into a religion where it's just like, no, it's impossible. Why do you say that? Where's your evidence one way or another? And if you don't, let's at least explore the option. I don't. It like I said, I think it has it's not good for people because it makes you begin to second doubt just everything. Instead of saying, maybe it's possible. I'm not saying yes every time. I mean, there could be other reasonable explanations, but let's not take it off the table. let's not just throw it away and go, oh, no, that's impossible. Because in my mind, I always think about, like what they say about radio. Oh, that's impossible. Or flying, for God's sake.
Sure. Yeah.
In 20 years, I mean, if you told me back in the 70s that I could see someone's picture and watch TV on a thing I kept in my pocket, I would think you were insane.
Right.
and now, as a 50-year-old, I take watching YouTube pretty damn regularly on my phone. So it's just, I don't know, man. It's just we just get stuck, I think. I think people just get stuck. And that's why I love your podcast. I love other things because it's like, let's just ask the questions. Let's just not say it's impossible. At least just ask the questions.
Well, there was a point where they said nothing can travel faster than the speed of sound.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Then we did that, and it's like, well, nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. It's like, yeah, that we're aware of, that we have invented yet, but who knows?
That's right, man. And that's right. Instead of just closing it off. And look, when you do that, and this is just humans, it's not, I'm worried that people will begin to think that podcasts like this or me are anti-science, and it's not
at all.
Anti-science. It's about human beings. It's about human beings. It's not the science. It's about how we react to stuff. I saw an amazing documentary. I don't know, a few years ago during the pandemic, where during the 80s, somebody in the Soviet Union unlocked the Mayan language. And it was like everybody from the West said, oh, no, he couldn't possibly do it, yada, yada, yada. And it was more about politics than the actual science. You know what I'm saying? It's human beings being human.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm all about, theory and test and all that other stuff. I'm not going to go, oh, no, that's garbage. But the deal is no one's tested if certain people mess up phones or batteries because, quote unquote, it's impossible. That's the part that really irritates me. It's always irritated me.
There's plenty of scientific research on psi that is replicable. It is peer-reviewed. If it was anything other than psi, it would be entirely accepted. But since it's psi, it's like, oh, well, we know this isn't real, so we just got to figure out what's wrong. And it's like, that's not science. That is not how this works.
Yeah, that's the stuff that just makes my guts just rumble because it's like, wait a minute, it's been done. Yeah, and they just throw it out. They just throw it out. Like, oh, okay, all right, fine. At a certain point, it becomes. I'm not a conspiracy person, but it just becomes like, why is it kept being thrown out?
I mean,
is it just because we're afraid, or maybe it's not common, or maybe all too common, and we just don't want to deal with it?
It's a little bit of that. It's a little bit of you want your research to be right because that's how you get funded.
Oh yeah.
There are definitely people who are terrified of things we can't explain. They feel like we have the universe figured out. 99% of it's figured out. We just got to kind of dot the I's and cross the T's. But then you throw something like psi in, which suggests that everything may not be the way we think it is, and they don't want that.
Yeah. You have people who really begin to lose their... Yeah.
And it becomes a very emotional response. It is not a logical, scientific response of, oh, that's interesting. We need to investigate this more. It's, that can't be real.
Dude, and that leads me to my big one, and this is the one I talked to Tim about. When in the 90s, mid-90s, I went, and it was like the trip of a lifetime. I got to go hiking, and I did some kayaking in Alaska. It was my first marriage, and it was wonderful. And we went to a place called Kennecott, Alaska, and that's where we sort of started. We went all the way to Stewart, and we kayaked in the bay. But here's the deal. At the beginning in Kennecott, we got a guide because listen, there's no way you do that stuff on your own. And we stayed at a lodge, and it was sort of like, it's like the AT. People can go on a little bit of it, and then people can go on a longer thing. So you met different people along the way. So there was a sort of a lodge, a big one at Kennecott, and the first part of the trip was we would be hiking across this glacier. which doesn't really, like when people go glacier, they think ice, but it wasn't. It was mostly covered by dirt because it was a very ancient glacier. So we're hiking around the glacier to start our trip. We have a guide, really nice guy, young kid, really nice guy. Just sort of to set the scene, to the right of us is a tree line, and to the left is just dirt, but it's not dirt. It's sort of like a small valley of it's ice. There's nothing down there. You can see the breaks in the ice where you fall down, you're a goner, but it's just dirt and ice. And it was the summer, so it wasn't. You can hike anytime because it doesn't really get dark. It gets to sort of that. I don't know how to describe it. Sort of that tan, like that sepia color. It changes your perspective of the world because you can't quite see colors that way. But it was a really amazing experience. So we're hiking. We're going across this glacier, and to the right of us, they're lights. They're lights the size of softballs, and they're moving around through the tree line. And the best way I can describe it is like they're playing tag or playing. I could say something like, well, it seemed to be like intelligently controlled. Yes, but in reality, the first thing that struck me is it looks like they're playing tag and running around. They were like will-o-wisps,
Yeah.
I don't know. And I know Tim asked me about the color, but I think you think about it, if the whole world is sort of like this yellow and white, I don't know. The only thing I knew is that they were bright, not like the kind of like movie bright, but you could tell they were self-illuminated. If you know what I'm saying, it was sort of like soft, diffused, but you could really see them. And the thing that struck me most, and why I bring it up, that because we were just talking, is because I had made friends with this guy behind me, and I forget his name now because I forget everybody's name, but he was a surgeon. And he, of all of us, like there were a bunch of different folks there, and like he had a nervous goddamn breakdown. He had a breakdown. The guide was nonplussed, and obviously he was nonplussed because he's seen them before. He's like, yeah, keep going. I mean, people were asking questions. People were trying to take pictures. But the man behind me, he just lost it. He's like, what do you mean? What are those things? Why are you saying that? What's going on? What are those? Is somebody hoaxing us? Are there people out there? I said, he lost his stuff. He did. And the thing about it is we sort of had to sort of calm him down and walk a while. And I bring it up because I think he was so entrenched in that world where and you kind of have to be if you're a surgeon, A connects to B, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
But if you're in that mindset constantly, if you see something like that, it just messes up your whole experience, man. I mean, he did not do well, and it was like a 4-hour hike until he could sort of get off the trail and go, and he was not well. He was not well. So like I said, you look at me, which was kind of like, hey, that's kind of neat. I'm kind of curious about that. And you look at the guide who's like, yeah, whatever, get out of here. And then this dude, you sort of get these 3 different sort of personalities. And, frankly, I'd rather be me.
Right.
I really would. I don't want to lose my mind if I see a spaceship or something or Bigfoot. I never have, but I don't want to be that dude. I really don't.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You must have been around people that are like that.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever been around people
absolutely.
like that are just like, no, I'm not accepting this. I'm replacing this reality with my own.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
I honest to God, I felt bad for him. I really did. I'm like, I have nothing to help this poor man who I think has had a life altering experience. You kind of wish, dude, I wish when you were younger, you probably should have had a bad trip or something, because maybe you would have been able to deal with this.
Maybe he did, and that's the problem.
Maybe that's it. That's true. I never thought of it that way. And he thought it was just, hey man, no, this is just all psychedelics. This doesn't happen. This doesn't happen in real life. I'm like, well, sorry, buddy. Sorry.
So
now
did you guys just leave with the lights still there?
Oh yeah. Like I said, the guy, he didn't have time for that. He's like, no, man, we got a schedule. He was completely nonplussed.
He's probably
like,
seen him before.
Yeah, they're there. Yeah. I mean, because he's seen him so many times. That's what my guess is. You know, it's like, yeah, it happens. I'm like, okay. Maybe to you. But yeah, okay. I don't know. I mean, I know now. I have ideas. You know, I don't know, but I have ideas of what they were. Mostly because, and this will come later, because I'm now married to an Irish woman, so you can get where my ideas are from, where they, what those were. I guess that is sort of the start of my kind of adult weirdness, if I can sort of encapsulate like frames of life. Like the other stuff was very, you know, childhood, and this sort of like, okay, as an adult, I'm seeing things that are just out of the ordinary. And I'll be honest, it really piqued my interest. I was always sort of interested in that stuff because, again, it's knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'm that guy, frankly, who if the devil shows up and goes, hey, you want to sell your soul for all the knowledge? I'm like, yeah. Where do I sign? You know, which wrist do you want me to slit for the blood? So I mean, I have always been curious about everything in the goddamn world. Mm-hmm. And if it seems like it's like hidden or occult or something, I want to know. And I think that stems to my childhood, where like, you know, this is an amazing book and I can't access it, so I have to work hard to figure out how the hell to get through it. So as an adult back in Ohio is when I really started. Like I joined this Bigfoot hunter group, and that's the story. I joined a lot of ghost hunters, and you know, this is like around 2000, so that was really the popular thing because of Ghost Hunters on Sci-Fi. Right. I think was premiering like in 2002 or something. So that was all the rage, and I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do this. This is fun. The ghost hunting were it's it's generally I'm sitting in a basement for 7 hours. It's hot. It's pitch black, and there's spiders walking around the size of my head. I mean, okay, and I've got a machine that maybe has some lights that I have no idea what's lighting it. And like, okay, great. I've had some interesting experiences, but I mean, the really neat one is and again, it's like one of those things. It's like where you're looking at sort of the people around you more than the actual thing that happened for me as well. So it's Ohio. So Bigfoot down there is known as the Grass Man. So there was a Grassman group that I found out of all places Craigslist, and these were good guys. I hung out with them. There were 5 of us. They were hunters. I'm not a hunter. I'm a hiker. But it's like, okay, that's cool. We met for, God, I don't know, maybe a month or 2 months with nothing. And then somebody's friend who lived sort of in Southeast Ohio, he got a sighting. And this was like, all right, where's all the rage? We're going to organize and we're going to go down there. And it was not insubstantial trip. It was about 3 hours. And I think we were sort of on the cusp, if not in like Appalachia, because it's unincorporated. There was nothing there. The guy didn't even have, I think he was like doing something for logging or early maybe fracking. He's selling the resources for something, but generally it was just nothing there. So there was a gate, we drove in, and there was a clearing, and we met the guy, and he's like, yeah, I was just taking pictures, walking around, and I saw something in the tree line. I'm like, okay. So I have a little car. It would not have made that. So I was with them. These guys all had 4x4s in the back of, and on the back of those, they had those little, what do you call them? Dude, I don't even know the name of them. Those things you can drive. They're on like gas. What are those things that people always flip over?
The ATVs?
ATVs?
Oh,
yeah. See, you can tell. I don't know, man. Yeah, so they had 2 of those, and we set up a camp. And we're looking around. I have a camera. I've got a recorder, they brought, they're hunters, so they brought enough guns and ammunition to down, I think, a platoon of bears. So, nothing happens. And as these things go, when you're with a bunch of guys, hey, man, you're sitting around the fire, start cracking out beer. I don't like the taste of beer. It's not, and I don't like to be goofy. And if I don't, and I'm in the middle of nowhere with guys I know, but I sort of don't know. So I'm not drinking. Okay. So the three guys, they go to sleep. They go to sleep in tents, and I stay up because, I honestly, I love looking at the sky because I love the stars and stuff. And it was a beautiful sky. And another guy stayed up with me. And then you're a sound guy, so you'll understand when I say this. I heard something, but it was more in my chest. It was like this, I'm going to sound like an idiot if I do it, but like this, like chuff, like when my dog sort of like, what's there? You get this like, oof, this chuff, and you felt it rumble. And the thing is, the guys who went to sleep, they heard it too. I don't know how, because I thought they were plastered, but they heard it. And they get up, right? And then the five of us are around the fire, and the fire's still going. And we're looking around, and we're like, was that it? Is that it? And then it does it again. And it's not a chuff, man. It's loud. And you can feel, I felt it reverberate in my chest. I really did, in my bones. I have never heard anything like that in my life. I've been to the zoo, and the closest thing, the reverberation, like maybe an elephant or a lion, but it wasn't that. It was like this sort of more bass.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. Whatever I will tell you is that whatever that is not native to southeastern Ohio.
Right.
It's not. That is not something you encounter in the woods. Maybe I don't, dude. Even a bear. That's not the way a bear sounds. Not coyotes, not foxes. I've never heard anything like that since or before. And again, I look at the people around me because I'm freaked out. I don't know what's going on, but like, these guys are hunters. I'm fine. They got guns. And I say, hey, are we going to go take a look sort of half-heartedly? I'm like, are we going to go and look? We're going to go to the tree line? And the guys are like, nope. And none of us went to sleep, man.
Wow.
We stayed up the whole night. And it didn't happen again. So the whole
reason you were up there was to find something like that.
I know. The whole reason we went, and it gets even better, man. They left the next day. We left the next day. Okay. I guess we found what we were looking for. I guess. Yeah, that was the end of that group. That was it. That was it. I decided, I can run away from loud noises easily on my own.
Right.
Don't need a bunch of guys. I can do that all day long. But I think if anything, they scared me more. Because again, it was like the doctor. And it's like, you can talk about stuff and we can sit here. It's like a bad high. Like, you can talk about it, but until you experience it, that's a different thing. So experiencing the sound was a different thing. And we were scared. Grown-ass adult men. I was in my 30s, and they were older than I were. Grown-ass adult men. Four of them with enough, with a big enough arsenal, like I said, to down, whatever. Nope, we're leaving. Okay, all right.
It was a little too real for them.
Yeah. I think that's what it was, man. I think, again, it was like, we're going to talk about it, and maybe we'll do this, and something will happen, and dude, something happened. Something absolutely happened. But yeah, that was about it. I as far as like my paranormal grass man thing, and I've never ever experienced anything like that since. And I don't ask me what it was, because I don't know. The only thing is, I've heard a bunch of different animals. I've been to a bunch of different zoos. I've got Google. I've never heard anything like that before. Never. I don't know what it was. It could have been a hoax. Maybe. Why anybody would want to go out there and play a weird noise for 5 nobodies in the forest? What kind of system would it take to have, like, how big would the speaker have to be? Like, you'd have to be at a concert, or, I don't know.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think they had the wherewithal to drag that in the forest and blast it at us. So I'm thinking whatever it was something real and not some kid, playing around.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
And the thing is, to hoax something like that, you'd have to know people were going to be there, which would imply.
But that's the thing. That's the trick. That somebody did, and I think about that. Somebody did. The friend did know, because he met us. But why go through all the effort? If you had that, there's no electricity. Wouldn't we have heard a generator? How big would the speakers have to be?
Right.
Just the logistics for a prank. I'm not saying it's impossible, because again, I'm never going to say that. But I'm just saying, why?
I think if you were going to do a prank, you would do more.
Yeah, right. Like the scared whatever on Sci-Fi, where you got some. Well, I don't know, because if you got some guy running out in a gorilla suit, you might get shot. But
I mean, even sound wise, it would be more than what you got.
Yeah, rather than 2 blasts, right? Because that's all it was. That makes sense. Sure, I can buy into that. Yeah, because I'm like, that was it. You're going to waste your entire time for that. And that's it, and not even say, hey, I punked you guys, let's have a beer later.
Right.
No, nothing, because usually there's that punchline at the end, a bunch of dudes, I got you. There was none of that. Just left. That was it. Like, okay, done. As far as UFO, never seen one, never seen it. Ghosts, quote unquote, and I say that just so. Well, you saw UFO be on the same page.
You saw UFOs in the sense of the lights.
But I don't want to. They were, I guess so. Yeah, in the very traditional sense. But yeah. I mean, they weren't up in space. I mean, they weren't up above the tree line.
Well, most UFO sightings are not up in space.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but what I'm saying, not in the sky, rather, But they were under the tree line. But yeah, I guess they were. Yeah, you're right. I mean,
they were unidentified UFOs. Flying objects.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that would be my UFO. That would be my only UFO experience then. But yeah, no triangles, no nothing.
Right.
As far as like other things, yeah, I've had some interesting experiences with groups. I've been with a bunch of ghost hunter groups. A lot of them are, it's sort of like it said, it was early on, sort of a mixed bag. The last one I was in was, decades ago. And look, man, it's a, you're never supposed to say anything bad about anybody. It's a podcast. The only thing is, if I'm with people and somebody said like, I think I've become slightly possessed, I'm out. I'm just out. Right. There's some bridges I can't cross, man. I'm like, okay, that's good. I mean, you do you. That's just not me. I think everybody has sort of like that border, and for better or worse, like we will not cross it. And one of that is kind of like, I'm not with you guys. I'm not everything's a demon. I've never been that guy. Look, I don't even know if they're ghosts, because what I'm going to tell you is a lot of my, like, when I go with a group, even to people's houses, before you go in, you get this long explanation. Well, somebody died here and they did this and this and this. And me, like with my background, with my day job, I go, do we have any proof that any of that really happened, or are you just sort of making this up on the fly? I mean, and that really is, it boils down to a lot of the experiences. Like, I went to a place in a school in, I think it was in Iowa, where I had an interesting encounter, but there's this whole story about this janitor, and then there's another story about these people who brought in a Ouija board and they let demons out. I'm like, what? Where is this coming from?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, can't we just say it's been an experience? I don't need to put this weird backstory on everything, and I have no way to verify any of that existed. You know, I don't know what it is.
But now
let's go from there.
But now you're looking at it with that framework.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I that's not. I don't think that's the right way to go into things. I mean, for myself, I think that's sort of like the big thing about keeping an open mind. That includes like, well, that may not have anything to do with anything. That may not even be true. Let's just like look for the experience, the damn evidence.
Yeah,
exactly. And at that, and we did. I mean, I did get evidence, like at a school in Iowa. I was there's a bunch of lockers. There was a guy behind me. He was recording, and the deal is, part of me really wishes, and to go on a weird tangent, I respect, and I think it's great that you were talking about the unsolved mysteries and bringing those old books back, because I think they're going to be lost in time. And I think a lot of this quote unquote evidence is going to be on somebody's DVD, and it just get thrown out with grandma's garbage. I wish there was some place where we could at least compile this stuff, all the stories and the records, and just like have it. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think so much of the stuff is going to be lost, and I would just like there to be some sort of repository, like sort of a MUFON, but better, because I have my own problems with MUFON. I'm a member. Sure. They make things very hard to find lately, and I'm interested in the accounts, and a lot of it is it's behind a paywall because whatever, money,
right.
But it's like let's have this just sort of like free space where people can put stuff in that's not really Reddit, but someplace where we can have these things and still go back to it. It's just sort of like a dream, because I think like this particular instance, right? I know it happened. The guy behind me knows it happened. I'm sure everybody and their brother could look at the bad tape and go, that wires, whatever. But I mean, I just like the place to keep all of it. But anyway, to get back to the story, we're going through the lockers, and he says, "Hey, Jim, why don't you try to open a locker?" And all of a sudden, man, the locker starts shaking and banging. And he goes, "Hey, man, I didn't say to pull it off the hinges." And I turn around and I go, "I didn't touch it. I haven't touched it. I haven't even started." It's just things like that. I just like, you want to blame that on some janitor that may or may not be there or some other stuff. Look, all I know is it rattled for some unknown reason. It's not windy. Nothing's going on. It happened right after the guy said, "Jim, why don't you see if you can, open that thing up?"
Right.
That's enough. That's enough evidence for me to say, that's pretty weird.
Right.
That is
right.
Weird.
But what is it evidence of is the question.
That's the trick, right? That's the trick, because I can't say, well, it's a ghost. It's a ghost of dead John. No, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Could it be a time slip? Could it be a ghost? Could it be something? Could it be me?
Right.
In my brain or his brain? No idea, man. No idea.
And that's the thing. Ghost hunters have a plethora of evidence. The problem is we don't know what that evidence means.
That's the trick. And I'm saying, if we have a repository of something, maybe people could look at it in a different light. I remember, again, another tangent, losing my mind about that Ghost Hunter show. And granted, it's a show, but they went to a place in Florida, and it was like repeatable evidence. And I thought to myself, guys, you have repeatable evidence here. You can do experiments. This is the Holy Grail. Well, our next episode we'll be going. Oh God.
I remember a couple episodes like that where they were getting something that seemed to be responding to them consistently, and then they would just stop. And I'm thinking, did it stop and you just edited that part out? Because why would you walk away from that?
Yeah. This is the Holy Grail. this is the thing that everybody jumps up and down about. Is it's repeatable.
Yeah.
This is something you can dig your teeth into. Nope.
Well, it might have the stuff might just stop, and then they just don't tell you it just stopped, and they just edit. Oh, okay, now we can go.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's very true. But I think in sort of the grand scheme, if you do find, and there has to be stuff out there. There has to be. I just I think it's no university is going to touch that. It's going to have to be people like you and me, or just people who are sort of amateur scientists, and like who really want their heart into it and not want to get on, TV or something, that really want to get to the science of it. Because honestly, back in the early 2000s, everybody thought of themselves as a possible pilot for a TV show.
Yeah.
That's just the way it was, man. It's just the way it was, but I think maybe someday, over the rainbow, if somebody really gets into it and digs their teeth into it, they might be able to find something, or at least have some consensus that something happened. And then we can really say, yeah, okay, now we have to figure out what the hell it is. Right. We have to really figure out what is going on. I don't think there's any other way to do it.
And you're right. And there's no doubt there are, really interesting EVPs and things like that, but we don't know what the source is. I mean, people will assume the source is whatever they're looking for. So we're looking for a ghost, so clearly that's the ghost responding to us. But it's like, is it? Or is it picking up something that you just can't hear from, that's like outside of our normal hearing? Or are you picking up something that you're projecting mentally onto that recording without realizing you're doing it? I mean, there's a million different possibilities for what that recording could represent, other than the fact that it shouldn't be there. That's the only thing we could say for sure. It's like, okay, there's no good normal explanation for that voice, but that doesn't make it a ghost.
Yeah. No, 100%. I don't even know what a ghost is. That's sort of, you try to sort of say, you know what, in a weird way, you fall into these preconceived notions. You're effectively in the same box as the skeptic is, because it's it's obviously a ghost. How you're doing the same thing at that same thing at that same event. It's not really an event. The same hunt we were on, there was a woman I was with, and you'd show her this stuff, and every 20 minutes she'd go, "Yeah, I'm a skeptic. And finally, it gets old. I'm like, okay, I understand, but it gets old. And at the end of the night, she's like, "Hey, I left my recorder in the basement. Somebody," and I said, before she could finish, I said, "Well, why don't you go skeptic yourself down there and pick up your recorder, and then come on back to us?" You're like, hey, you know what? There's nothing there. What are you afraid of?
Yeah.
Go down there and grab it. Why? You getting the heebie-jeebies? Why? I mean, that's something to even talk about too. Why are you feeling those experiences now? And is that the reason why you're quote unquote a skeptic? Because you're afraid? Let's talk about it. Let's delve into that. No, nothing. It's all these little sort of boxes. I am not a fan of I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the buzzy machines. I'm not a fan of any of that stuff. I'm not, dude. I'm just not. Well, I honestly, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, finish what you're saying.
I'm honestly all about just sitting and talking and just seeing what happens.
Yeah.
And that happened, and I've tried that, and I have gotten responses. Not in the way you would think. But I got a response. I was in Ohio. It was in Ohio. There's sort of like this sort of they have jails, really old-fashioned jails, where the sheriff would live with his family. It was attached to the jail, so you'd have sort of this home jail combination,
right?
And we were in there investigating. And I went up into the jailer's master bedroom, and this has been abandoned for God knows how long. And honest to God, it felt like my grandparents' house. And I sat down, and I was like, I talked. I'm like, people say this is a scary place, but it really, for some reason, feels like my grandparents' house. I really like it here. I wouldn't mind just staying here and just taking a nap. It would be cool. Now, fine. I didn't have any machines, no doodads, no nothing. Here's the interesting part. We're leaving, and the person who owns it, a woman, she closes the door. Now, she had not met me. She didn't open the door to us. The key was there. She was just there to make sure we got our stuff and gone, for the next people in there, She looks at me and she goes, you have a very kind face.
Okay.
Okay. So in my mind, is that sort of a synchronicity? Because I felt like loved and stuff in that house,
saying.
and I told them, you know what I'm saying? And I said, it's warm and inviting and comfortable here. I mean, is that something that I should be focused on, or is it just something completely like random? But generally, people don't come up to me and tell me I have a kind face. It was just like right out of the blue. I said hello to her, and she said, "You have a kind face," and I'm like, "Wow, okay." I guess to me, like I said, in very, very synchronicity sort of way, that hit more than any sort of beeping box.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that may just be me, but I mean, if we're gonna go into anything, I'm gonna say that was sort of my hit as to something was there. I'm gonna indulge myself.
The ghost hunting equipment thing is like such a big money maker for the people who make.
Oh
this
yeah,
stuff.
dude.
And when I first saw one of those, what I think they call them portal boxes, and I was like, well, it sounds really cool. Like, it's like this echoing. And then I asked someone, I'm like, what exactly is this? And it's like, oh, it's just one of those radio things that goes up and down the channels, put through a reverb filter and put in a box with some cool black lights. And I'm like,
it's a shack hack with reverb and some lights. Okay,
right.
Great.
And I'm just like, so there's nothing particularly interesting about this. You've just made it sound and look spooky.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And you know what? I'm not going to say, but it's probably selling for like 500, 600
Oh,
bucks.
probably, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. Like, here it is.
And like I said, they look and sound awesome, but they're not exactly helping you find anything unusual in the environment.
No, it does nothing. It's just a cool toy. I mean, and hey, that's cool. I mean, yeah. But I mean, you're not really. I think my experience with Jim's Got a Kind Face is just as valid as your cool light. I mean,
yeah, right.
If
not more
the difference? So. Yeah, what's the difference? But I guess the other sort of interesting ghost hunt I had is when, like I told you, I don't regularly tell like my colleagues who I work with what I do, but I made a good friend. His name's Devin. He was best man at my wedding, and I told him, and he is quote unquote a skeptic, maybe a little more open minded, but I asked him, hey, do you want to come with? And he's like, yeah, for me, for giggles, I'll go with you.
Right.
And, here's the story. There's always this backstory. The woman, her mother died. She brought all her, because she couldn't bear getting rid of any of that stuff. She kept it all in her basement. And then she said, hey, you know what? Lately, I've been having some problems. And this was, God knows, a different ghost group. I've been through a bunch of them. But we go. And Devin comes with, because the more the merrier. It's fine. So we go in, and it's a very small house. And there's a basement. We talk to the homeowner, nice lady. She's going to go across the street and stay with some friends. But, she'll be there when we're done. This is not an overnight thing or anything. We're just going to be there for a few hours. So Devin's with me. We go in the basement. And everybody's got their little doodads and stuff, and things are blinking and things are going up and down. Here's the interesting thing. We hear, because we're in the basement, we hear somebody walking around upstairs. Now, Devin, being the guy he is, he goes to the stairs, And he thinks it's the homeowner, and he's just telling her, "Hey, we're downstairs." So he starts to open his mouth. He said, "Hi, we're here," and then we all hear, "Get out." Honest to God, man, we hear "Get out," and if Devin could grow wings and fly, he would have flown out the house, because he spent the next 3 hours in my car with it on. Because again, he is like he was like the surgeon. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm not dealing with this.
Right, right.
No. And I thought it was hysterical, because it's a trope, man. Get out. Okay, I will someday. You're going to die. Yes, obviously I will. Yes, someday. I guarantee you I will. That's
right.
Great. You know, it was like a movie trope. And I mean, the other folks we were with, they didn't. You're like, oh, that was cool. But man, he was gone. He was gone like the Flash. And to this day, because he's still my good friend, to this day, I talk to him about it, and it goes from, hoax, some sort of gas in the basement we were exposed to, just the mental calisthenics he has to go through to deny that happened. It just chokes me up, man. Devin, can't you say something unexplained happened, you heard something, and you got scared? No way. No way. No, absolutely not. No. Okay. That's cool. That's cool. That's fine. That's fine.
That is always thoroughly amusing.
I know. Just to get back to it, they cannot, it's outside the normal, no, this is not, I reject this reality. Most of my stories are like silly. The only serious stuff is sort of like this. This is sort of like this was maybe 10 years ago. So this is fairly longer now, because I always mess around with I can't keep, but at least 15. At least
okay.
15. So I got another job, small town Ohio. I mean, I'm talking small, like no street lights, man. Like you have to drive an hour and a half to get to the highway to be able to find where the Walmart is. And I took the job because it was an honor. I had a friend put in my name. I'm not going to say where, because I still practice, but I'm not that kind of lawyer. I was a prosecutor in a small town in Ohio, Central. That's as far as I'll go. Mm-hmm. And I remember driving into this place, and I remember looking around and telling myself, "What the hell movie am I in, man? Where am I? This place exists." And it was sort of the county seat. So that's the only courthouse there. It's the county seat. They have common pleas, they have municipal, they have everything in one building, like it used to be way back then when you didn't have huge complexes. It was hard. It was really hard because I had just left my wife. We had gotten a divorce, so it was sort of like the start of my new life. It was hard. I was staying at a hotel like 2 hours away for a while, and finally a house opened up. And like these little towns, nobody's unless somebody dies, you're not getting a room for rent. This is not what you think about, like even a tiny city. It's not to be had.
Yeah.
So the house I had really was the house on the edge of town, because next to me, it was a paved road, but that was sort of it. The road just ended. And the house sort of, the closest to me was, the roof was falling in. But it came out, and the person was like the person who owned it was like the daughter of somebody in the county, some big wig. And she wanted to take her hand at like realtoring and renting homes for money. And I'm like, hey, it worked out. I was tired of staying in this motel. Fine. So I rented the place. Now here's the thing that like, these are the things that you look back on and knowing like who I am and the experiences, they should have been some flags. Like, because I drove up early because it's just everything's connected. You could walk to work, so I knew exactly where the place was. So she said, "Yeah, I'm going to have it cleaned out in a day or two. You can come by then." Well, I just decided, I'm going to see what this place looks like. So I go there. There's still furniture in the place, and there are holes in the walls. And I'm like, what was going on? I didn't get anything. There was just sort of like, just weirdness. Just don't worry about it. This person left, and it just came up, and that's why I heard, that she was trying her hand at this renting and realtoring thing, and it was fine. It was fine. They took the furniture out. The thing that struck me the most, holes, whatever, kids, frat boys, I don't know, whatever. That's what struck me. Like, it was like kids, frat boys. And I'm thinking now, like, there's no colleges, there's no universities around. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Why does somebody put holes in their own walls? But there was a fish there in a big fish tank. It was a groper, and it's still there. Like, who would leave their fish? And I remember I got a really bad taste in my mouth from the woman, because she's like, "Well, we can get rid of the fish." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, we'll just throw them outside." I'm like, No, you're not going to do that. I'll keep the fish. That's just the kind of person I am. I'm not going to, no, you're not going to have some fish suffocate in the back of the yard. No, I'll take him. So, that was odd. So 2 weeks, I still don't have any furniture, and weird stuff starts happening. Like, teeny weird stuff, but like my keys go missing. And I don't have any furniture to put the keys on, so I'm effectively living in a mattress, and the key should be right by the mattress.
Right.
Because I don't have any place to put it, man, and they're not there. And I've really chalked it up because it was a type of work I'd never done, and it was a lot of long hours. I just chalked it up to, like, okay, I'm just tired, and I must have misplaced them. But the issue was, like, they would be back. I'd go looking around in the kitchen, and then the keys would be back.
Right. And
I'd say to myself, well, I just didn't see them. And the same thing from, like, my wallet. I guess I just didn't see it. Or like pens, nothing like, oh, and then the TV moved. No, I didn't have a TV. Just really small, teeny things. And not all the time, again, but enough where looking back, I go, that's weird. That was really weird. And that was, kind of, I'm not going to say normal, but more than uncommon. So I'm there maybe a month or two. I've got, I'm a confirmed bachelor in the middle of nowhere at this point. So what do I have? I have a lazy boy. I've got a TV. I've got a desk. And I still have a mattress because I haven't bought a bed. And I've got stuff in the kitchen. I couldn't. This is again how in the middle of nowhere it was. I couldn't get a washer and dryer delivered for at least like a month or two because it was so far off the beaten path. Yeah. And I'm like, guys, I'll pay extra. No. It's just, look, we'll get to you when we get to you. I'm like, fine. Okay, great. All right, fine. This is how middle of nowhere it was. In the meantime, I had gotten 2 little kittens from somebody I worked with. I still have them. I still have them. Here's the deal. I would wake up and I'd hear voices in the living room, and I think, well, I must have left the TV on. No, the TV wasn't on. Again, stuff would start, like, misplacing stuff, and I would think to myself, man, I must be overworked. This is just rough. But then I noticed that the cats would be bothered by the TV on, not on. They would go run and hide under the covers, or they would go run and hide in the closet. I believe they lived mostly in the closet when I wasn't home. I don't know what got the cats spooked, but they would live in the closet, which in my experience growing up with cats, that's generally not what they do. They like to go explore and hunt and stuff. Right. But they would be in the closet because I know they'd come creeping out when I came home.
Huh.
One morning, and it's this bright morning, so not movie, not like it's wintertime. I like to wear a 3-piece suit. It's part of like quote unquote the armor you wear for the day. I'm putting my vest on, and I hear he's putting the vest on, just like that. He's putting the vest on. It's a man's voice. It's a man's voice, and he's putting the vest on, like he's talking to someone else.
Right.
Not like, hey, I see you're putting the vest on, or hey, vest. No. And this is not through a machine. This is like right in the room. This is no shack hack. I hear it. My own ears. He's putting the vest on. And dude, that ruined my entire day. It ruined my entire day. I did garbage at work because I was in that position as the surgeon. I was in that position as my friend Devin, because I had to sort of grapple with, like, he's putting the vest on, like, but it happened to me in my own home.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm alone. And look,
so what was happening is there was a psychic in another world who was tapping into your, I could see you, and it's like, it's the same room, but in another probable reality, and they're going, I see him. He's putting the vest on, and that just kind of filtered through.
Like, dude, like remote viewing, like the Project Stargate,
right?
Somebody looking through a mirror. Yeah, like a D&D thing, and it was bizarre. Yeah, it was. I heard it. I heard it, man. It was nuts. But then that was, I think, the mark where things started to ratchet it up. And again, like I said, I have talked to other people about it, and they're like, well, this is how the demon tries to wear you down to do this stuff.
Right.
I wasn't like, it wasn't like, I wasn't afraid. It was just like, it was something I had to deal with. It didn't scare me. It was just sort of like, that's messed up. You know, that's just really messed up. And I have to sort of come to terms with that. And then being at this very rigid sort of evidence, and this is the way it is, and like very materialistic job at the same time.
Yeah.
The dichotomy was really tough on me, you know, and then things they started to ratchet up. Like, look, I don't care who you are. At 3:00 in the morning, you're not a brave man. Maybe not me. Because I started turning the lights on at night. I would go to sleep. I would have the bedroom closed, the door closed, the bedroom lights off, but the rest of the house lit up like the 4th of July, man.
Right.
And my bedroom door handle, it would start to shake like somebody was trying to open the door. And I had to tell myself, I'm awake. I'm awake. I'm not dreaming. I even like patted myself on I didn't slap myself. I patted myself on the face to go, I'm experiencing this. And again, I took my cues from my cats because they freaked out and ran into the closet. So I said, you know, I can't talk to them to say, hey, do you see what I see? But their reaction is confirming that it's not in my head. You know what I'm saying? It's some other being is responding to the stimulus. You know, it's not just me. This is something other than me. But again, it wasn't all the time. Okay, so this is months. So maybe the biggest thing was when I was about, 8 months in, almost a year. So the stress of the job had sort of like leveled out. Things were doing fine. I was not like, you know, anytime anytime you do something new, there's always that, you know, fish out of water.
Yeah, the adjustment period. Yeah.
And it's real stressful. And I was past that. So, and things had sort of calmed down, even at home. Again, you'd get the rattling, and I got to the point, and this is to show you that I'm not like, I would say, could you knock it off?
Yeah.
I hear you. Stop. Stop. And when I would hear the TV, I would say, stop. Can we give it a rest?
Yep.
It's not like I'm rocking in a corner sobbing. You know, it's not, the demon's trying to break your will. No, I just told her to knock it the F off.
Yeah.
So, but this is the one. This is the one where I was like, I noped out. 4:00 in the morning, the damn smoke alarm goes off. This is a smoke alarm from the hardware store. Okay, it's not wired into the house. It's not a modern one. It's a one where you put the 9-volt battery in.
Right.
Just to put that out there. So the smoke alarm goes off, and it woke me up because I should be sleeping at 4:00 in the morning for work. So I think my house is on fire. I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
So I swing open the door. I'm looking for smoke. I'm looking to get where the cat carriers are because, all these things go in your mind. I'm like, all right, I'm going to grab the fish. No, I got to do something. And then there's no smoke, man. There's no smoke. And I'm looking around going, what? And there's nothing. And the alarm is still going off. It's blaring. And, I got the little step ladder and I go, well, maybe the battery's bad or something. Something's going on. I get up there. I pop the lid. There's no battery, Soraya. And the minute I pop the lid off, the sound stopped.
Wow.
And I don't care if people believe that or not. I will go to my grave. I will submit myself to a polygraph or whatever. You know what? I don't care because it was real. You know what I'm saying? The minute I popped the lid off to look, there's no goddamn battery in there. There's no battery.
From experience, I can tell you fire alarms going off for no reason is concerning and creepy. But when you have no battery, that just ratchets it up another level.
Oh, I know. I really thought, well, the battery's going bad.
Yeah.
Or because like modern ones, I know there can be shorts and stuff because it's hardwired into the wall.
Right.
And it'll go off. That's, it happens. So that is the minute I think, God damn the battery. I got no time for this. There's no battery in there, man. There's no battery. And that week I was gone. Took the cats. Took the fish. Nobody gets left behind. I'm done. I'm like, you made your point. I'm out. Too
bad you
I paid for the lease.
I'd like to know if the people who were there before you had similar experiences.
I'd love to too, but the only thing I could say is she was very mum on it. But that could just be business. But why were there holes in the wall? Why was their furniture still there? Yeah, I took my furniture. Like I paid for this. But I was in a better position maybe than that person was. I had more resources. So I don't know. If I was a different place in a different time of my life, you know what? I probably never would have. I wouldn't have left the fish under any circumstances. But the furniture, maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. But no. Every living thing comes out with me, man. Even the plants. But no, we ain't sticking around. We're leaving. Whatever you want, house, whatever's in there, and you want to live there by yourself. That's cool, man. And to this day, I don't know. Looking back, was it trying to communicate with me? I was talking to it. Yeah. It's not as if I was ignoring it, or did it just want that house? Whatever.
Or was it just a random energy surge that happened to set off a fire alarm?
Sure, but I mean that. But if you take the totality of the experiences too, the fire alarm is really quote unquote what broke me.
Oh, sure.
But everything else, if it was trying to communicate with me, I was certainly talking back.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was ignoring it. It wasn't like I was. It had me like. Especially that day when it said he's putting the vest on, it had me rattled, but not to the extent where I was frothing at the mouth like the other people in my life. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to see nothing. I don't know, man. The only thing I can say is I don't know, but I'd never live there again. Never in a million years. I took my wife around the place, and she's like, yeah, this is a creepy bit here you used to live in. I guess at the time it seemed really nice.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow.
And I guess now that was like a big thing, but now, I've moved out of Ohio. I don't do trial law. Now I basically, I do a lot of consulting stuff. I do a lot of other things, but I have a house, close to sort of northwest Illinois. And the cool thing is it is right by a forest preserve. And is the thing. This is why I'll come back around to where I think I know what those things in the forest were, because I married an Irish woman, and we bought a new house, and it is an interesting house. We had some experiences in it, and not anymore. Anytime you buy a new place, it's kind of like you don't feel right. It's sort of like not yours yet. But when I would go in the basement, I always felt like there was, and I never had that before. I've never had that feeling before. I've never had that feeling of being watched. And I would do laundry or like fix the basement up because we were just moving in. I'd have that weird like sense of feeling like somebody's behind me. Somebody's behind me. I gotta look. We've got dogs now. The dogs would just start barking at the basement door, and this was something that kind of struck me. We'd have this sort of weird, dirty old man, sweaty smell. I don't know how else to describe it. And somebody's going to say, well, how does he know what a dirty old sweaty man smells like? Well, like I said, I grew up in the south side of Chicago. Really, I know that smell. And it was just like there. And it was, what is this? And you know how that stopped? We lived with it for maybe, honest to God, settling in, maybe 2 weeks tops. My wife just started yelling and telling it to get the F out.
Huh.
And haven't had a problem since.
Nice.
We haven't had a problem since. She was pissed. She's like, get the F out. She's a school teacher. She lived on a farm. She's very no nonsense. Not when it comes to that stuff, very open mind, not somebody to say no. And I think it's because, honest to God, her background and the tales her family told her, she believes in the good folk, man. She does. And it's one of those things where it's like they're not going to indulge anybody, but they're not going to risk the wrath. You know what I'm saying? They're like, I'm not going to push fate. I'm not going to say anything bad because, I think I really do believe, not stupid enough to piss all over it. That sort of attitude. And it works. And I'm happy I'm with her because it works. It works. So, yeah. I mean, we've had some interesting experiences, but nothing in the house since then. Since then, the house has been wonderful.
Nice.
She's the one who told me that we probably live next to a fairy mound. The property we're on used to be an old train station. So they demolished it. They tore up the train tracks and they put a trail. So we are right next to a forest preserve. There's a trail and what she calls a good people mound, which was like a mound. And I just think it's a mound of debris that's covered with a tree and forests, like tree and grass and plants. And she basically gives me this look like, you're stupid. That's exactly what a fey mound is. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But we've seen interesting things out in the forest preserve. It's not big. It is small, but we've seen some cool things, man.
Well, let's continue this on a Patreon because we're out of time for the main show.
Dude, I'll talk to you anytime absolutely. My pleasure.
So, Jim, okay. you also have a Twitch that you stream occasionally.
Yeah, here's the deal. I have terrible insomnia, and I never want to be somebody out of touch with what's going on. So I stream horror games, and I talk about high strangeness and the paranormal, and I talk about my experiences. And it is actually it's the main character of the first book I ever wrote, and I became so successful with it that there's still a bunch of them in my basement, but it's Dan Tansky Monster Hunter, and that's my tag on Twitch. So if you want to see an old man suck at horror games and tell interesting stories, come listen. That's it. That's
awesome. I want to take a moment here to thank all of my Patreons. Without you, this show wouldn't be possible. And I especially want to shout out to those pledging $10 or more. Allison Cook, Super Inframan, 36 Dingo, Chuck Shutters, Leanne Sherry, CJ, Tim, Andrew Nichols, Christine, a blue second-gen MR2 drifting around a Japanese mountain, Patricia Giaquinta, Alex Whitcomb, American Rambler, Andrew Maines, Barbara Fisher, Beverly Williamson, Big Boy Limina, Charles Davis, Charles in Florida, land of the crazy and communicable, Christopher Ernst, Jim Pyre, Craig Cicernos, Craig Parmenter, Crystal Ann Compton, Diane B., Edu Camahort, Empty K, Eric Citron, Eric Todd, J. Otto Bullitt, James Lattimore, Joanna Rojas, John Bracken, Carla Mahoney, Kevin Schreck, Cool Kitty, Roger Gonzalez, Kristen L., Laser Printer Jam, Linz Jackson K., Luke Osborne, MJ Armstrong, Jim and Sophie, Mark Brady, Matt in Delaware, Patricia W., Paul Jeffries, Ray Benedetto, Riker and Stark, Ron Dupre, Sam Sharon, Stone Wilderness, Tactical Therapist, Taylor Bell, Thunderboy, Tyler Glimstead, Vincent Treewell, Walker, Will Gebhard, Will Powell, Ren Collier, Stephen D., and Amber Hall. Thank you all so very, very much. There's a short Patreon extra where Jim tells some more stories and plenty of other stuff up. Become a patron, $3 a month. WhereDidTheRoadGo.com. You have been listening to Where Did the Road Go? This show is made possible in part from our Patreons, and we thank you and everyone listening for helping us continue this exploration of the strange. You can always find everything Where Did the Road Go related at www.wheredidtheroadgo.com. And thank you so much for your support.